Hey, what's happening, man? So I just came back home from the theater and I saw the movie The Long Walk, directed by Francis Lawrence. And yeah, it wasn't too bad. And the reason I went to go see it was because I'm a huge Stephen King fan. And yeah, he wrote this book, The Long Walk, as Richard Bachman in 1979. So this makes it like a 46-year-old idea. Plus, if you add the years it took him to refine it into a novel after, writing it and then editing it obsessively and all that stuff. So it took 46 years for it to become a movie. And yeah, like I wasn't disappointed. I thought it was I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was a good movie overall. I thought that Francis Lawrence did a really good job at directing. And as far as like who wrote the adaptation for the script, we have JT Tollman. I thought he did a pretty good job at that. Of course, I have no real frame of reference because I have never read the Richard Bachman era, but on the film, it translated as earlier Stephen King works like The Shining or The Stand and stuff like that. So it was really like, it was cool to see, like the old classic style of Stephen King's A to B story structure right there on the screen. That was really good. I like that story structure wise, very solid story. What else? Time magazine has mentioned that it stays pretty darn true to the story with one particular twist. So I think I'm gonna have to read the goddamn book in order to figure out what that twist was. But as far as the movie goes, let's talk about the movie. It held up as its own. We got actors. It was starring Cooper Hoffman as Raymond Garrity, David Jonsson as Peter McVries. What do we got? We got Ben Wang as Hank Olson, Mark Hamill as the Major, and Judy Greer as Jeannie Garrity. That's just to name a few. I wrote a bunch down right here, and yeah, like they all did a really great job in The Long Walk, and a movie about walking. Like the idea on the screen, like once you see it, it's like, oh, that idea is really like, like it's a really good idea. It's a really obvious idea when you see it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I really enjoyed the aspect. I don't want to spoil anything, so that's why I'm trying not to over say anything about the story. But it's like a game, right? Like it's like one of those dystopian type kind of games where it's like The Running Man or something like that. That's another one that's by Stephen King where it's kind of like a game. Last one wins. We got Suzanne Collins' Hunger Games kind of style to a certain extent, but a long walk. And what I thought was funny was like the setting. The setting was in Garson, Manitoba. I mean, for the most part, and also surrounding parts around Garson and just basically in Manitoba. And the story takes place in a post-war, like desolate, broken down society. And I just thought it was really funny that if you're in like the Lionsgate meeting room or whatever and you're trying to produce this thing and you're talking about it, you're like, oh, I need a place where we can we can shoot post-war film, like a really run-down place where we can shoot this movie. And they're like, oh, Manitoba. I thought that was kind of funny, but like like overall it was good for the setting, it was good for the story, it was good for the gander, so like as far as like Stephen King adaptations go, like my favorites will always be like Shawshank Redemption, The Mist, Maximum Overdrive, and Hearts in Atlantis. Those are like my top favorites Stephen King adaptations, and I'm sure I'm missing like some of like the best, like Pet Cemetery or we got It and Creepshow. Like there's so many adaptations. Like no wonder I'm a fan of one of arguably the world's greatest horror novelist, Mr. King, aka Richard Bachman. But yeah, man, good movie overall. And it was great to see Judy Greer is still kicking it. Like I always thought Judy Greer was beautiful, and she still is. She's still totally a knockout. But like back in her like heyday, back in her prime, like she was just like a knockout 10 out of 10 for sure. And she always got cast in really flirty kind of roles. And I loved her voice in the movie or in the show Archer and stuff like that. So it was good to see Judy Greer on the film. That was great. And of course, Mark Hamill, like any Star Wars nerd would like that. And when it came to Star Wars versus Star Trek, my dad raised me on Star Wars, what are you gonna do about it? I was thinking about Mark Hamill actually the other day, and one of my favorite things that Mark Hamill has ever done. It's cheesy. It's a cheesy part, but when he's in The Simpsons and he's like, "Hey Homer, I'm not gonna make it. I twisted my ankle," and then Homer like carries him out of the building to safety, and then he's walking all right, and then Homer's like, "Hey, I thought you twisted your ankle." He's like, "Oh, how about that?" And then he like runs away. I was thinking about that Mark Hamill scene the other day, and it's just always fun to see Mark Hamill on the fucking big screen, like, you know, like Kevin Smith says, like in that fucking movie Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, you know, when it's like, "Hey kids, it's Mark Hamill." You know, like that's how I felt, of course. And Ben Wang was hilarious in that movie. I thought he was very good. What's that, comic relief and all that jazz. And I was really surprised by the emotional acting of Garret Wareing. Like that was pretty good. But and like Cooper Hoffman and David Jonsson, they did a really good job. Like Cooper Hoffman was solid, but you know, for me, like just overall like character and like just story structure wise, for me, David Jonsson as Peter McVree's number 23 there, he stole the show for me, you know, as far as that goes. Like it's a really good acting and a really good dialogue, absolutely. And just, you know, overall, it was a good film. So I'm going to have to rate what's called The Long Walk by Stephen King, aka Richard Bachman, adapted by JT Moller for the screen. Molnar? Moller. JT Molnar for the screen, and then directed by Francis Lawrence. I'm going to have to give it 4 stars out of 5. Pretty damn good for a movie about walking through the desolate, cold, dark, post-war place of Manitoba, Canada. So shout out to Garson and the Garson Hotel being in the movie and all that stuff. You know, it was cool. It's cool. You know, I live in Manitoba, so that's part of the reason I enjoyed that. But yeah, The Long Walk, Stephen King. Huge fan of Stephen King. 4 stars out of 5. Thank you for listening to this review. Cheers, love, respect.